Welcome to the Holy Spirit's Curriculum of Joy podcast. My name is Wanaka Oberhuber, and my guest today is Lynn LaBord. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you.
Yeah, so happy you took the opportunity and came along for the ride. Yeah. So I asked a question about feeling loved from within, and you had a clear answer that you feel loved from within, and I'd like to go deeper into that subject with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I also would like to add that I've noticed that you are channeling various beings, not
I
just
am.
one.
Yeah. Several.
And so if that comes up that one of them wants to speak, they're welcome to
Oh, beautiful.
during this podcast. And
Beautiful.
yeah, I wanted to say that in advance before you feel held back about that.
No, thank you. I think one of the reasons why I have this feeling of feeling loved from within is that I just have such a deep connection to all of the beings that I channel and how it came about and how I've opened up to it. And really the ability to invite an ascended being within, you have to let go of your ego big time. You have to be able to say, I'm okay, I'm safe. I'll come back. They aren't going to hijack my body. When I first heard about the idea of channeling, I said to my friend, "Oh no, I've seen the movie Ghost. I saw that guy hop inside of Whoopi Goldberg's body and take over. I'm not doing that." And she said, "Well, it's not exactly like that." And I began to do some private training with her. She's someone I had been friends with for 30 years. And so it's a process of allowing and of surrendering. And in the allowing and the surrendering, I'm surrendering my ego. And that's really the place where I discovered this place of peace and this place of love within. I can honestly say I'm 59, I'm about to be 60, that I am at the greatest sense of peace that I've ever had with myself in my entire life. And that's how that journey unfolded.
Yeah, wonderful. Then let's go back to how this came about, where you started the first inklings that you could feel loved from within, and then how it developed.
Sure. It was 1996, and I was living in Hawaii, and I had started practicing Aikido, which is a beautiful Japanese art of giving, um, of it's a martial art of, I guess you would call it more of like a defensive art rather than an offensive art. And Aikido stood for I means love in Chinese, and Ki was like chi or life force energy or prana, and Do was movement. So it was loving movement using life force energy. So rather than attacking someone, you would learn how to divert them and how to kind of like dispel an attack. So I was fascinated by Ki energy. And then I met a young woman named Maureen O'Shaughnessy. And she said she had just become a Reiki master. And I said, Reiki, is that anything like Aikido? And she said, yes, Ki energy is that same essence. And she said, I'm going to be doing a training on the weekend. And I said, I'd love to come. So the training was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, about 3 hours each. And on Sunday, it was my turn to be on the Reiki table. And there was a girl named Tara who was at my head, and her hands were resting on my throat position. And her boyfriend, Mark, was on my left with two of his hands on my body. And Maureen was on my right with her two hands corresponding matching marks as they were moving on my body. And all of a sudden, my body started convulsing. And out of the sky, at about 10 o'clock, this golden beam of light comes and hits me in my third eye. I, I'm not a spiritual girl, like nothing like this had ever happened to me. Um, and the golden beam of light, when it hit my third eye, the word Hathor came out of my mouth. And I saw an image of Hathor's sun disk with the horns, and Hathor is the Egyptian goddess of women. So I sat up from the table. I said, "Give me a pen and paper," and I wrote down her name, and I drew her symbol. And this was 1996. There was no internet. There was no iPhone. So I said, "Does anyone know who or what Hathor is?" And nobody did. So the next day, Tara and I went to Instead of the local library, we went to Barnes and Noble, the source of everything. And we said, can you tell us who Hathor is? And there were books upon books of her. And then I started having, I guess, what would be considered past life memories of being a priestess at her temples. And it began this journey of me finding myself in a world where I felt that I had never belonged or never fit. And it started to explain why I knew the things I did and why I felt the things that I did. So that journey with Hathor began then. Scroll forward to 2017, and I've done every kind of self-help and, trainings and everything from hypnosis and past life and everything else. And I am in a meditation group, and Pallas Athena, the daughter of Zeus, comes to me in this meditation in my mind's eye, and she says, "I am Pallas Athena. Will you come with me?" And I figure when the daughter of Zeus shows up, you say, "Sure." And she took me underneath the waters on Earth, and she showed me the civilization that lived inside the Earth. And this is the second mystical experience in my life, and I'm thinking, "Oh my god, am I crazy?" So I call my friend Wendy, and I say, "I just had the craziest experience. Pallas Athena came to me in a meditation, and she said, 'Well, why don't we train you to channel with her?'" And I was like, "Wendy, that sounds like the craziest idea." I said to her, "I've seen the movie Ghost. That doesn't sound like anything I wanna do." And she said, "Lynn, learning to channel is a journey of transformation. It's a journey of self-love, and it'll help you, by bringing that energy, and it helps you. It's almost like a spiritual pipe cleaner, and it helped me to fall in love with myself, to be able to say, 'I trust you and I love you enough to bring you in, to hear the messages, to deliver the messages, and to be a servant of spirit.'" So it was a relinquishing of my ego. It was a rather extraordinary adventure. So I began training with Wendy, and then in 2018, Hathor came to me one day and she said, "You're gonna be channeling me next." So Metatron is the being that Wendy channels, and Metatron said, "You're gonna be, you're not gonna be working with Athena like you were every day. You're gonna now be working with Hathor." And when Hathor started to come in, I can honestly say that that was the line of demarcation for me for this journey of self-love. It was a being who knew me, whom I trusted, whom, you know, guided me in everything that I was doing. I talked to her all the time. I would ask her questions. And it was about me learning to trust myself and to respect myself and to love myself. And that journey has been incredible. And since then, I've opened up to, I channel Mary Magdalene every day, and we are doing a daily lesson from the Course in Miracles, and she's bringing through the divine feminine perspective. I channel Jesus in a meditation group, and we're working through a book that he channeled through a man named J.M. that's called The Way of Mastery. I um, channel a whole bunch of beings. Sanat Kumara has come through. Marcus Aurelius has come through. Archangel Michael, Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, and most recently Sophia came through. And Sophia said, "I want you to channel me. However, I first want you to do the work of the initiations in the Sophia Code." So I've put together a mastermind. We're beginning in June to start that journey, because it's all just about self forgiveness, self love, forgiveness being the biggest piece that has really brought me to this place of loving myself so deeply, and knowing that at any moment, if I get triggered, if my ego goes, "Ah," that I just immediately, my default is to go to forgiveness. So that's been my journey.
Wow. Deep opening, huh?
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of trust needed to go into that too.
Yeah,
Because you,
absolutely. Oh my god, huge trust, especially because I'd had, like the dad who left when we were little, abandonment issues, some child abuse with babysitters, other issues. And it was interesting though, because rather than looking at them like scars or things that had altered me, I look at them as stepping stones, places where I had to go in and do extra work to prepare myself for this channeling journey. Really
yeah,
powerful. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you for sharing so much about it. And
You're
I
welcome.
believe these beings must have been cleaning the pipes a lot because there must have been a lot of issues coming up when you encountered them.
Yeah, and you know what? They still it's very interesting. I'm a Reiki master, so I've trained a lot of people in Reiki, um, and I have a year-long program called the Quantum Living Curriculum, in which I teach people how to use the same techniques that I have learned and mastered to work with others. You know, it's like the difference if you can give a man a fish or teach a man to fish, and I would much rather be able to teach people how to fish for themselves and for others. And one of the things that we all do is we classes every week, and everybody is working on themselves and helping each other. We've got this beautiful community, probably about 30 of us that are on this journey. And it's a 3-year journey working with the writings of Jesus through the way of mastery. And everybody, I mean, we get together every morning for a couple hours and people get triggered. You know, life happens. They get triggered by each other, they get triggered by their kids, by their jobs, by life, by COVID, by cancer, you know, you name it. The thing that we always do is we always come back to love. Like it's one of those agreements of nobody ever leaves the platform, you know, without, you know, like you don't go to bed angry kind of thing. And we have tools and techniques to be able to help each other through, you know, the things that happen because life happens. You know, it's meant to trigger us. And sometimes when we trigger each other, we always say, thank you so much. Here's another opportunity for forgiveness, growth, and self love. And when you have that perspective on it, you know, the only way to resolve anything is going to be through love and communication. I've always said one of my basic tenets is that love is a function of communication. And that's one of the things that Hathor was known for. She's known as She of a Thousand Voices. And the Hathors were known for using sound technology to help, you know, build the pyramids and everything that happened in Atlantis. So I've done a lot of work on this. I've really I've been on the path since 1989 as far as training technologies. So it's been 32 years now. And you know, I can easily say that in that time I've mastered this. And that's why I love teaching it. So when your question came up, it was very sweet. My response was, yeah, I have I've definitely gotten to that place.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, I would like to ask you for a definition of forgiveness. How do you define it?
Sure. To me, forgiveness is being able to love somebody the way that God does. And God loves without condition. God loves with neutrality. God loves without judgment. And when I let my ego get in the way and I judge the crap out of people or myself, I stop myself. I pause and I say, you know, it's like that what would Jesus do kind of thing. If I were looking at this person through the eyes of love, if I could look at myself through the eyes of love, what would I see? How would I see? And then I let go of the opinion, of the righteousness, of the anger, of the judgment, and I just turn it over, and something releases inside of me, and then I'm able to see them through eyes of innocence, see them through, I don't know, there's like a purity that happens, and who I've projected onto them that they are, who they remind me of, just disappears, and I see them through the eyes of innocence. And to me, that's what forgiveness is, being able to see someone for their purity rather than what I would condemn them for because they didn't sound the way that I wanted them to, or say the things I wanted them to, or do the things I wanted them to. You know, it's not about me, it's about them. And so forgiveness is about releasing that stronghold of my egoic opinion of this shouldn't be the way that it is, and being able to release myself into the place of saying, this is exactly as God meant it to be. And forgiving myself for feeling that it ever should have been any other way.
Yeah, I love that. This saying, it's perfect the way it is.
Yeah,
And
because it
I
just
know
everything
that every time I have a question, I'm to spirit, I always get the answer all is well, right?
exactly.
And
I
I'm
know.
like, and no matter what state I'm in, all is well. I'm like,
Exactly.
and I'm like, cool, that's not exactly enough for me right now. So
it's
do
that
you get
age-old question.
further answers when you ask that?
Well,
Ask things.
it's that age-old question of, "Do you wanna be happy or do you wanna be right?" And my ego goes, "Oh, no, 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 no. I definitely wanna be right." And my heart goes, "I wanna be happy." You know? I did 100 days of happiness with, 2 friends, where every day we looked for something that made us happy. And then after the 100 days was through, he dropped out and she and I did another 100 days. It was 200 days of happiness. And then after 200 days, she dropped out and I kept on and I did 1,000 days of happiness. And it completely changed my orientation for life. Because when you look for what makes you happy, when you look for love in all things, you immediately find it. Like everything you look for, everything you ask for is given to you. So those 1,000 days brought something to me that I can't explain. It was years, literally, that I went through this. So now I look for, by default in life, what brings me happiness and what brings me joy. And the instant that I get an inkling that something is a no for me, like I kind of live and die um, by my intuition. If I get an idea that something is a no for me, I'm out. And I say with all love and respect, you know, I can't continue. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's something that I'm eating or drinking. It doesn't matter if someone that I'm talking to or connecting with. It doesn't matter if it's a journey that I'm taking. I mean, whatever it is, I'm very, very vigilant, hyper vigilant about my intuition, and I I ask higher spirit, higher self on everything. So I know.
Wow, that's marvelous.
Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe we can go a little bit into the topic of the divine feminine because you say Hathor is a goddess for women, right?
She is. She is.
And
And Mary,
I think we all could profit from that.
yeah. So Mary Magdalene, I have a very different version of who Mary Magdalene was. Mary Magdalene was trained at the temples of Hathor in Egypt. Mary Magdalene was trained as a high priestess. Those were some of the soul memories that I had after, my reconnection with Hathor back in 1996. Magdalene was the wife of Jesus and the mother of his children. So when I was in a very dark place in my life in 2019, um, doing some of the deepest healing work that I had, and Magdalene came to me and helped me just, come back to the light. And last year when Jesus came to me, I had a client who was suicidal, and the client was screaming and screaming, and I felt a tap on my shoulder, like a spiritual tap on my shoulder, and this energy was there, and it was just so loving. And this being had said to me, "May I step in?" And I was doing an Akashic record reading for the client. She was screaming at her Akashic records about how unfair her life was, and he came in and he had a conversation with her, and she was screaming at him, and she said, "Who is this, God?" And he said, "I am the one that you know as Jesus." And on the inside, I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 this is not happening. I am not gonna be that girl who channels Jesus. No way. No how. This is not nope." And he's laughing on the inside. And, anyway, we do this incredible healing on her, heals her. She decides not to take her life. She's alive and thriving right now. And, he starts this conversation with me and he says, "Well, it's your turn." And I'm like, "Oh, but Jesus, I spent 25 years as a financial advisor. I have securities licenses. Like, I'm a I'm a normal girl. I don't want to be the one, he's like, "I understand. It's your turn." And I'm like, "Okay." And it was another one of those things of surrendering. And I'm like, "Hathor, is this really happening?" And she said, "Yep, this is the next thing for you to do." And anyway, Magdalene had already been around me. And when Magdalene came to me, what she said to me the very first time, she said, "Thank you for taking care of the children." And I had this immediate memory of being the youngest sister of Jesus. And he was married to Mary Magdalene, and they had children, and I used to babysit them. And I knew that I'd had an incredible relationship with him my whole life, but I just never thought I was gonna be channeling him. Never say never, right? So Magdalene came to me, and actually they both did, and they said, we would like to take a journey with you in 2020, no, sorry, in 2021, where you will be reading a lesson a day from the Course in Miracles, and then you will channel Magdalene and bring through the divine feminine perspective. And I was like, oh, it sounds like a big assignment, but okay. Like, what else am I going to do with my life, right? I was retired. I hadn't gone back in fully back into doing the consulting and teaching and training work that I'm doing now, but I thought, all right, I'm all in. So the beautiful thing is that the divine feminine, there was kind of about 5,000 years ago, there was a time where the divine feminine had been kind of like ruling everything, going back to Atlantis and even times in Egypt. And there was kind of a crack in the system. And it's where the patriarchy came in. And there stopped being the reverence and the appreciation of the divine feminine. And so what's happened now with this whole, Me Too movement and so many things that are happening is the divine feminine is bringing its way back into balance because it's been so out of balance. So through the work of working with Hathor, working with Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, Isis, Mary Magdalene, Green Tara, the White Buffalo Woman, the goddesses, I guess the best thing you could say is that they're on the rise. And what they're doing is they're allowing people to integrate and balance the masculine kind of go-go nature that we've had to produce, to provide, and to really learn to surrender and to allow and to let life happen. And to me, that's where my happiness lies. When I have surrendered to my divine feminine, when I can listen to the voice of spirit, whether it's from, you know, masculine or feminine, but that it's not my will that's being done. It's not me doing what Lynn thinks is best, because I've lived many, many years doing that and lived like the successful within a successful masculine paradigm. But it's really been this journey of surrendering to my own femininity. Sorry, I have an alarm. Let me turn that alarm off. Um, and, I've got goddesses like Hathor and Magdalene along the way. Kuan Yin. Oh my God, what gorgeous, gorgeous energy she has. And now Sophia. So I'm preparing to be channeling Sophia, who is the divine feminine Christed being, like the counterpart to Jesus. And then just very recently, Baba Ji came in. He came in on the weekend, told me to start practicing yoga again. So, yeah.
Wow, and all of this in connection with A Course in Miracles. Really
Yes.
fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus was just saying in one of the books, the Way of Mastery, that the Course in Miracles was a response to Helen and Bill saying, there has to be a better way. And because of their training as psychologists, he brought forth material that really spoke to their minds. It's a training for the mind. There's a brilliant little book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And Napoleon had been able to interview the devil, and the devil talked about how he caused humanity. He said he had about 98% of humanity within his grip, and he caused humanity to be able to do something called drifting by having their minds inculcated with things they've learned from their parents, from their teachers, from their religious leaders, so that they don't think for themselves. The devil said that people that are the most dangerous to him are like scientists and people who really think for themselves. They think outside of the paradigm, they think outside of the box. And he said, I'll have people make money and then they'll eat food that's too rich and it takes them away from thinking for themselves. And this was written back in 1938, but you can definitely see that in today's society we have iPhones and cell phones and iPads and television and movies and all these things that that he said it creates a hypnotic rhythm. It's kind of like when you go from beta state into alpha and your mind is just mesmerized and you've stopped thinking for yourself. I just saw a girlfriend post on Facebook saying how easy it is to be hypnotized by the things that people say on social media. And what I love about the Course in Miracles is it's Jesus saying, look, I'm going to teach you how to think for yourself. You're going to spend, you know, 5 minutes every hour, and you're going to connect to this lesson for the day. You're going to know that you are as God created you. You are not a victim of the circumstances you see. You are sustained by the love of God, whatever your favorite lessons are. By the way, a girl recently read the first 144 lessons, just the titles as a story, and it was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever heard. When you get a chance, go to the index in the front where all the lessons are written, and just start to read the lessons as if it were a narrative. Nothing I see means anything. And just go from there, and the lessons tell this most magnificent story. It's really gorgeous.
Yeah, I love A Course in Miracles, and I've been posting about it since many years. I
Yeah,
started, and I was led to start the podcast.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's always been Yeshua telling me what's next. And
Yep,
the most funny thing is that I I was told that I was a course teacher before I even read the book, according to Yeshua.
that's
And then,
beautiful,
and then I said, "Hey, I haven't even read the book. How can I teach A
right?
Course in Miracles?"
Right?
and then I and then I got to listening to it and reading it. Yeah.
And it felt familiar.
And then once I had done all the lessons, I started posting about it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then later on, I started the podcast, something that I'd wanted to do since a long time. So here I am with you.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. Let's see what would be a good topic. There's a lot of hatred going on at this time. Maybe one of your guides would like to step in and share about how we can let go of all this infighting that's going on about everything that's going on now in the
Yeah,
world.
sure. Hold on. Let me see who wants to step forward. Hmm. I have Mother Mary here. Oh, this is sweet. I haven't channeled her in a while. Let me bring her through. Hmm. Greetings, beloved. Beloved, we have stepped forth, for you are indeed familiar to us. You are indeed familiar to the one that you know as Yeshua. Your understanding of these principles come from lifetimes in which you have journeyed with us. You were part of the Essene community thousands of years ago. Many of the things that Yeshua has taught came from his teachers, and you were one of them. Allow yourself to delve into your own records, and you will find the truth of these statements. Beloved one, what is happening is a mirrored reflection of each soul's journey. So when they have allowed themselves to indulge in anger and hatred, when they have allowed themselves to become at war with another, it is indeed a reflection of their own self hatred, the war that exists within, the place where they are caught in a battle between what is of the heart, what is of the mind, and what is of the soul. They have allowed themselves indeed to be indoctrinated through many, many incarnations, and to stand upon a hill and say, "This is the way that things should be." They have indeed not been able to surrender themselves to the love that is present within them, the very guiding force of their existence. Rather, they find themselves fighting, but what they are doing is merely boxing with shadows. They are fighting against themselves. And there is a light within that they have forgotten. It is at the very same time what it is they are seeking. So each being must allow themselves to go within and to ask, what is it that I desire? What is the experience that I am meant to bring to the world? What is the singularity that I am that is meant to be brought forth, that leaves a mark upon the world, that reminds people of their own goodness as I am reminded of my own? And when people forget, what they are able to do is to reach out and call out for assistance. Prayer is one of the most powerful and greatest tools that all beings have, as well as sitting silently within meditation. The quieting and the calming of the mind allows one to reach deeply within the heart to find to find the pool of pure golden light of grace that is granted to each being, that allows them to be forgiven and to forgive themselves time and time and time again, to come back to the love and the oneness that God is. For as God is, I am, and as I am, all are. For it is indeed God's breath that breathes all of us. And when one inhales and remembers that God is, upon that precious exhale, one only need remember, I am. And all of the chains of battle and all of the aches of ego fall to the wayside, and all that is left is the purity of love that exists within all of us. So allow yourself, beloved one, to continue your good work. We thank you for your time, and we will speak with you again.
Thank you so much for bringing that through.
You're welcome. she's
Yes.
she's remarkable. Well,
And
that's pretty cool that you have an Essene connection with her. Yeah,
yeah,
she doesn't come through very often. That's really sweet.
yeah, it is. I don't know what it means, but I'm very happy. Yeah. I have a connection with Yeshua since a long time,
Yeah, yeah. You were one of oof, you were one of his teachers.
yeah.
That's really
That's
beautiful.
also something I don't know what it means, but anyways, we'll see.
It's
Anyways,
there in your Akashic records, so you can find out for sure.
yeah,
Monaco, I actually need to run to the bathroom for a moment. Can I mute you and I'll be right back?
you can mute yourself and yes.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay, so Lynn has been sharing about her journey, and it's so amazing. All these beautiful beings that have been coming through her, and yes, I've also been channeling since a long time, and I've had various guides come through. And yeah, one of my previous guides was called John, and he loved to, yeah, show me how to be more loving and kind to people because he's such a gentle being. So yeah, and for those listening, if you can start thinking about what you'd like to ask later on when Lynn's back. There's so much we can share, so much we can give to the world. So
Wow,
beautiful.
this is so amazing. So amazing is it? So I was busy today, but I am so happy that I'm here.
Hi,
Thank
Elaine.
you very much for doing that.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. It was funny. There was a point in my life where I had to make a decision. I had been pregnant and I had lost a baby, and I had to make a decision if I was going to um, try and have children again. But the doctor told me that I needed to have surgery and have a hysterectomy to save my life. And so I had to surrender the idea of ever having children. And I was like, okay, well, now what am I going to do? I'm like, I was off the market, so to speak. And I made the decision at that time as well that I was just going to have my life be a life that was service to God. And it wasn't going to be the husband and the kids and that whole path, but it was going to be something very different. And that, I knew that I had had children before and I was going to have them again. I believe in past lives. And this is a life. I live in this beautiful, beautiful community down in Virginia, right on the river near the Edgar Cayce Center in Virginia Beach. And I have this quiet, beautiful home, me and one cat who I've had for 11 years. And my life is really a life that is dedicated to being of service to spirit, of service to God. Someone asked me when I was a teenager what I thought my life's purpose was, and what came flying out of my mouth was that I was meant to remind people of their relationship with God by being a living embodiment of that. And I just wanted to make more money. Like, I was like, that's why I became a financial advisor. I thought, I'll build a church. No, that wasn't the journey. But my ego was like, no, we need security, we need money. You're not going to get married, you have to make your own. And when all that passed, I was just left with realizing that truly this was my life. My life was meant to be of service to God. And if that meant I was going to be channeling or teaching Reiki or, teaching people how to remove trapped energy or, how to read the Akashic records, whatever it was going to be, I was going to go where spirit led me, and here I am.
Yeah, wonderful. And I remember when John was helping people to connect with spirit, with their guides. And so I'm wondering whether you have something you'd like to share about how one can start connecting with one's guidance from within,
Absolutely.
whatever that may look like, if you'd like
The
to share that here.
Yeah, the most important thing that any being can do, and this is repeated to us constantly, is to meditate. Meditate is the place of coming to stillness, and that is such an important part of any day. Our minds are, being inundated with so much information that comes in that when we can close our eyes from the world consciously, we can take ourselves from that beta state, take ourselves from that alpha state, and actually even bring ourselves down to theta through meditation, through breath. They say that the mind controls the body, but what controls the mind is breath. When you can co-join meditation and breath together, like a yoga practice, and then you just come to stillness at the end of the practice and you just sit. Prayer is when we talk to God, and meditation is when we allow God and spirit to talk to us. Then there's also something that I do. There's a class that I teach that I call Clearing the Clairs, in which I help people open up their clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, and claircognizance by removing whatever blocks have been in the way. So I had a client, and she had a hard time being able to see spirit, like beyond her physical eyes, even with her eyes closed. And we pulled up a past life memory where she had been the seer in a village. And she kept warning the village that the raiders were coming and there was going to be a horrible attack on the village. And she was an old woman by now. Some of the elders that had brought her in had died. So there were younger people in the tribe that were kind of leading things. And they didn't believe her. And when the marauders came and when they killed just about everybody in the village, she was spared. But what happened was the village turned against her and they took two pieces of wood and burnt it in the fire. And they burnt out her eyes and left her blind and, abandoned her. And she made the decision in that lifetime to never allow herself to see, to have visions again. So we helped her recover that. And it was extraordinarily powerful for her. If you're willing to take a look within, get quiet enough and ask, where am I being blocked from being able to see spirit and hear spirit and feel spirit and know messages from spirit? You can put yourself in, there's so many different psychic training development academies. Um, Another thing that's really great is if you're able to receive messages from spirit, to just sit down with pen to paper and open yourself up and say, Spirit, what messages do you have for me? Who would like to speak to me today? Every time we ask, they respond, every single time. So there's so much of that that can be done. There's automatic writing. You can just sit down and take a pen to a blank piece of paper and see what images come through. There's going within and really allowing yourself to listen to this still, small, quiet voice that speaks to you, that's the voice of God, that's there all the time. And we just need to allow ourselves to hear that voice. The first time I remember hearing the voice of God, it was 1984. So I was 23. I was doing this deep meditation, and I went in and I went in and I went in and I said, "Who is it that speaks to me?" And I heard this voice say, "I do," and I got terrified. I was like, I got the very thing I was asking for, and then it scared me. So funny. It takes courage to be able to do that journey within. It's very easy to get distracted by everything that life has to offer. But when we are willing to get quiet and to get still and to be still and to know the truth, we're closer to our guides than we could possibly imagine. So my formula is always meditation, using breath, allowing yourself to get quiet and go within and get still, and then listening for the voice of spirit, and it'll come.
Yeah, thank you for those
You're welcome.
beautiful words of encouragement.
You're
And
welcome.
here we're a group of writers here.
Hmm.
And so that's a great thing to hear about how to open up to actually writing what's coming through from within,
Yeah,
because that's important to all of us to convey the message of love, of joy, of
exactly.
of certainty, of trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, and knowing there's a solution for everything.
Yep. There sure is.
Yeah, I'll open the floor for questions if any of you would like to ask some questions.
I have a question. I didn't unfortunately hear some of the beginning of the what you were talking about, so I'll go back and listen. But I do wonder, how, like with this client who you helped unblock, what do you suggest for people who have a hard time staying on, like even once they hear that voice of what is they're being guided, directed to do, but they don't listen to it and they keep falling off and they keep, tripping themselves up and creating unhappiness. Like, how do what do you do to help people? Like, I guess even me in small ways, I notice how I have an awareness about something, but then I'm not really acting on it. How do you keep on the right track?
It takes first of all, hi, Julie. It takes a diligence. And there's this woman that I know, she's extraordinary. Her name is Melanie Ann Lair. And she always says pineapple season is coming. And we said to her, what does that mean? And she said when she was in Hawaii, she went on a tour, the Dole pineapple tour. And she heard them say that it takes 18 months for a pineapple to come to maturity. And she said, so you may not get it in the first try. It may take you hundreds of times to be able to finally develop the discipline, to be able to develop the ability to have what it is that you want come to fruition. And if you notice that there are some self-sabotaging behaviors, like you know better, but you keep, you know not to eat sugar, but you're like, but it's pecan pie, um, that you have to find out what is the thing inside of you that's really hungry, and what is it that you're hungry for. If you're craving sugar, are you looking for sweetness in your life? You just have to be willing to go deeper and to know yourself more intimately. And when you're willing to do that work, when you're willing to take that journey within, everything you're looking for is going to come to you. The answers will definitely come to you because they live within inside of you, you know?
Okay, I believe you. I work as a psychotherapist, and so I spend my days listening to people's problems,
Yeah.
and I think you're right. It does take a commitment to just keep
Mhm.
refocusing, and we all make mistakes,
Yep.
and to not beat ourselves up about it, but to look at them as a mistake or a learning opportunity and move forward from that.
Right.
Um,
Rather
but
than a mistake, look at it as a lesson. I don't have failures. I have lessons. I have,
right.
step closer to it. It took Albert Einstein, no, not Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, 10,000 tries before he got the light bulb right. Like that's diligence. And the thing that I would say to you, Julie, is make sure that you're putting up some kind of like psychic protection because you have a tendency to sometimes take things on. So allow yourself to leave clients in session, you know? That's just a message that just came through from spirit for me for you.
And that's really helpful because sometimes I'll see 7 people in a day, back to back to back to back, and then by the end of the day, I am gone. Myself is like,
Yep.
where am I?
Can you
And
can you lessen that? I used to see 6 people in a day, and I was told by spirit, "Bring it down to 4," and then I brought it
mm,
down to 3, and it's just to keep me in balance, you know?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I decided to work 4 long days so that I would have 3 other days, especially because 'cause I'm trying to write.
Mhm.
So, yeah, but I think you're right. I think I have to find my balance and readjust a little bit because
Right.
I'm losing myself. And the other thing that, um, you mentioned fear about, like, getting to know ourselves. For some reason, it's just such an odd thing that people are afraid. We're all afraid for some reason of really being ourselves and how we're conditioned to not be, like your mission here has been to help find this part of themselves. I guess that's my mission too. But it's just so odd that that's not how the world is set up.
Well, the world was constructed by ego. It's what we invested in lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Everything is made of energy, and energy moves at a certain velocity. It's Einstein's theory of relativity, right? So if we have an emotion, emotion is energy in motion, emotion. So when that energy comes towards us, it comes towards us with such a velocity that sometimes if it comes faster than we can ameliorate it, if it comes faster than we can allow ourselves to transmute it, we put up an energy blockage and we say, I must not, or I cannot, or I will not experience this. And then that energy creates a mass, and that mass stays with us. It stays embedded in the physical, mental, emotional, etheric body. And sometimes it'll turn to illness and disease within our bodies. So the tools and the techniques that I teach people is how to transmute that energy. Because there's a law in physics that says no two objects can occupy the same space at the same time, therefore duplication causes erasure. And as you know, when you can let someone go back to the point, and I do this whole process, I call it psychic surgery. It's a technique that I created. And I have them look at the shape and the color and the size and the texture and the temperature and the weight. What's it made of? What's its purpose? Does it have any movement to it? And then most importantly, what are the feelings and the emotions that are trapped inside of it? And when they're able to duplicate all of that, they're able to surround it with a field of love, move it out of their body, and then turn it white and basically release it back to spirit. And that's one of the greatest gifts you can give anybody is to have them free themselves from the energy that has blocked and trapped them their whole lives. So that's some of the work that I do and some of the work that I teach people. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
you're welcome. Any other questions?
I also,
Hi,
yeah,
Elena.
I also, it's me. Hi, hi, Loon. Your name is Loon, right? Loon,
Lynn.
Loon, Lynn. Oh, sorry. Um, I am a Russian, original from Russia. I live in United States for 17 years, and So I have hard accent. And my question is, I feel that I have some mission in my life that, and I know probably that my mission is kind of kindness, um, to be um, to spread kindness to the world. But I still um, I still didn't find myself what I can do. I have financial career and I'm not working anymore, but I just feel that that I don't know. I just don't know what I can do with myself. I yeah, I definitely I will write the book, and but still kind of that um not sure what will be in the future, but probably I will find something what I can do with my gift.
Your gift of kindness is shared when you go to the market. Your gift of kindness is shared when you come on and you talk and people can hear the sweetness that's in your voice. Your gift of kindness is being shared. But as far as what it is that you can do for a living, to make money, to be able to exist, I would, as a writer, take pen to paper and ask spirit and say, what would you have me do? And also, Elena, I would look at what is it that you like to do? Like what is it that you desire? What is it that you want? Because those desires were given to you from God. They were given to you from spirit. So what are you meant to teach? How are you meant to do it? And I would just sit down quietly with a blank piece of paper and say, Spirit, talk to me. What messages do you have for me about how it is that I am meant to express myself in the world? I see you writing something like children's books, like teaching children about kindness. It's like with adults, they've learned those lessons or they have hard lessons to learn. But if you could write something that could get to children about the importance of kindness, that would be something that's really powerful. The answer lies within you, that I can promise you. You just have to have the willingness to go inside. And that's a writer's journey anyway, isn't it? Writing is such an intimate action. It's between you and yourself, or you and your guidance, the message that you have to deliver to the world. And the more real it is, the more people will be able to relate to it. You have that gift.
Wow, thank you very much. Children's books. Wow, amazing. I love the kids. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe it's a good idea for me.
I'm
Wow,
I'm being
thank you.
told I'm being told that your mother's mother, so your grandmother on your mother's side, she's on the other side, right? She's not alive anymore.
Right?
She helps you write. She's saying that she helps you write, and call upon her and ask her to help you to write these children's books.
Wow. You told that it's my grandmother from mother's side.
Yes,
Oh, wow. I did not know anything about her, but probably, yeah. Wow.
you can have a relationship with her. Her energy is still present. You can have a relationship with her. I would close my eyes and I would go within and I would ask to connect with her and I would allow her to speak through you. And then I would just take pen to paper and I would write down the things that you hear her say. She wants to help you with this so much. She was a very kind woman. Her
Wow,
heart,
you're right. I heard that.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, she's talking to me right now. Very kind woman, indeed. She will be a great resource for you. Hmm. Yeah, it's very blessed. It's got like it's got hearts and crosses all over this connection. It's really beautiful.
Thank you very much. Bless
You're
your heart. You're so right.
you're
My
welcome, my
goodness.
love.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the kindness that you bring forth. It puts a huge smile on my heart.
Thank you for your kindness.
You're welcome.
Oh, I'd like to go back to what you said previously about having heard a voice from within for the first time, and you have been that it was a little bit scary to you. How did you then step back into the court and accept hearing the voice again and again?
It was definitely, I had a man that was my mentor at the time. I was 22 years old. He was 44. And I told him about it. And he laughed and he said to me, "That's nothing to be afraid of. It's just the voice of God within." And I said, "But isn't the voice, like, isn't hearing voices a bad thing?" And he said, "Maybe it was for Joan of Arc, but you're not Joan of Arc. Don't worry about it." And he just made me laugh about it. But it was my willingness to tell him, how much it scared me. And then he made it safe, by like laughing about it. And I went back in and continued my meditation. I have been guided to some of the most extraordinary people and places and relationships. And one day, around that same time, uh, I was getting ready to go to work, and the voice inside said, "Take an extra pair of stockings." And I'm like, "What?" It said, "Take an extra pair of stockings." And I thought, okay. I threw an extra pair of stockings in my purse. I'm at work that day. One of my girlfriends calls me at work and she says, "Hey, you want to meet me over at the captain's something or other like that?" It was a great seafood restaurant, and I was craving clam chowder. I said, "Sure, I'll meet you there." So I went over to have lunch with her, and it was this kind of nautically themed, like everything was ships and stuff. They had these wooden chairs, and I sat down. We had lunch, and as I went to stand up to leave, my stockings got caught on the wooden chair and they ran. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I went into the bathroom and I threw out the stockings and put on the other ones that were in my purse. And I was like, wow. And I just learned, like, it was something so simple, but I learned to listen to the voice of spirit. And it has given me the most incredible relationships. It's that sense of intuition that I have. It's that sense of, and I'll ask them, should I do this? And if the answer is yes, sometimes you'll even use a pendulum. The answer is yes, I go ahead. And if the answer is no, I trust I've learned enough to listen to the no's.
Yeah, very
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, it's very interesting, and I wonder how do you know when it's your own voice or it's a spirit voice? How do you determine the difference?
It's how it feels to me. When I know that it's spirit, I feel it in my solar plexus. When it's me, kind of, messing with myself in my head, I hear it up in my head. I can, like, it's very distinct for me. It's so funny. Like, I'll leave a message to somebody on Facebook, and then you go about your day, and all of a sudden I'll get this message in my solar plexus. It says they just read your message, and then it'll pop up on my phone with their response. It's just things
Mhm.
like, you leave a voicemail for someone, and then I just hear this voice from spirit that says, "They just got your voicemail. Go get your phone. They're going to be calling you back," because I usually leave my ringer off. It's a conditioned relationship. It's one that I've developed. If you walk down a pathway long enough, it becomes habitual. And I have just developed a very, very strong relationship with spirit. I refer to either Jesus or Magdalene or Hathor, now Sophia, for everything that I do. I turn to the Holy Spirit. There's that beautiful prayer at the end of chapter 5 that says, "I must have decided wrongly because I am not at peace. I made this decision myself. I will myself to be at peace." And it's like surrendering and asking the Holy Spirit to come in and help me make a different decision. And that relationship with the Holy Spirit, with my higher self, with Jesus, whatever you want to call it, it's the strongest relationship that I have. You learn, you develop it. It's like a muscle, and it may be dormant, and you exercise it, and it gets really strong really fast because there's muscle memory from other incarnations. When you relied on spirit, it comes back.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, and like seeing the signs or like, the serendipitous things that are happening, and paying attention to them, and then going within and understanding what that message was about.
Yeah. They're giving you the message for a reason. Nothing happens by accident. There is no happenstance. Everything happens for a reason. Oh, it's 3:33. I love that number. There are no accidents. There are no chance meetings. Everything, they're orchestrating all of it. And our egos want to go, no, that was me. That was mine. I did that. I want that. I don't want that. you know, I have this little girl inside of me that sometimes wants to throw a temper tantrum, and I'm like, all right, sweetheart, here, come, let me hold you. It's okay, you know. And then back to the work at hand.
I love this message of trust that you're sharing.
Yeah.
And I'd like to once again refer back to the topic we started with, feeling loved from within. Would you
Yeah.
like to describe that in more detail, maybe as a parable or an image or something, so that we
The,
can get a feel for it?
yeah, the love within is knowing that the greatest relationship that I have is my relationship with God, that God is where I am, that I am created by the love of God. Lesson 50 has always been my favorite, that I am sustained by the love of God, that the very breath that I breathe is God's breath breathing through me. God is. Helen had one scroll in her life, and it said, God is. And Jesus has said to me, God is, I am, and that's the truth. And it's that place of just knowing that God is where I am. I am the very breath of God. God created me. I am as God created me. And that knowing just goes beyond everything. It's having a trust, it's having faith. It's living inside of a state of grace that God granted us when we were created. And it's letting go of all of the effects of ego that say that life is anything other than what I have wanted it or needed it to be to fulfill my own ego, my ego's fears, my ego's petty grievances. That whole section on grievances was so powerful. What are we holding on to a grievance for? Why would we see anyone other than as God created them? Because really, that's us looking at ourselves. Why would we allow ourselves to do that? Being in love is one of my favorite things to be. And I would rather be in love with myself and everyone around me than to hold on to my ego for a moment. And I get triggered because I'm certainly not perfect and I'm certainly still human in here and incarnated. But the minute I get triggered, I immediately go straight to love and forgiveness. And that's what keeps me with that state of love. It lives within me, and I cultivate it, and I water it, and I garden it, and I nurture it. You know, I love myself. I fell in love with myself in my journey with the Course in Miracles. I fell in love with myself in the channeling of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. I fell in love with myself. I love who I am as God created me.
I love the description as being in love with how one is, right? How
Yeah,
God made us, not
yeah,
made us, created us,
yeah,
and, and seeing that all the time. It's a
yeah.
really, really powerful description. And yeah, it's like, I know that I heard a voice for the first time and I was also afraid. So yeah, I'm learning to trust all that and realize that we are perfect as is. This is
Mm,
really, really powerful.
yeah,
You also mentioned forgiveness, and that's a real tricky one, I think, to navigate, because being hurt and being wounded and suffering trauma. And, you know, it's very hard to get to a point of forgiveness when you're in that emotional place.
What you have to realize is that when you're feeling that sense of being hurt or that sense of being wounded, that it's somewhere that you're not telling yourself the truth about what actually happened. So you have to have a kind of willingness to be so honest that you can see the truth of what really happened. And sure, it's easy for us to say, this person hurt me, this person wounded me. Not actually what happened. What happened was a circumstance occurred. It was a completely neutral event, but there was a decision that we made about it. There was a choice that we made about it, in which we said, this should not have been the way that it was. This hurt me. This harmed me. This broke me. This affected me. And none of that's real. None of it's true. And we have to be able to be so honest with ourselves, honest enough to be able to say, let me look at this with different eyes. How would God look at this? How would Jesus look at this? What's the truth of this? And from there, we can forgive ourselves for having looked at it in a way that we thought we were a victim of our circumstances, and we're not. But that's a really adult conversation.
I can understand that, from my adult experiences, like my ex-husband and how I was a participant in letting things happen, right? I get that. I totally understand that. But it's much harder, when I think about myself as a child and having been hurt as a child and abused as a child. Like how did I make that happen?
Through soul contracts. Again, this is a much larger conversation. Through, in the place of planning where all souls make their agreements, you have to have a balance of energy. So you have to go back to lifetimes where you were the perpetrator. And then they said, okay, so you did that. Now we're going to have you have a lifetime where you get to experience being the effect of that. And then the energy gets balanced. But, now we're talking about soul contracts and we're talking about past lives, but it gets you out of this victim mentality because of the brutality that you suffered as a child. Isn't just you being a victim. It's you saying, I needed to experience this so that God could have another point of view of what it's like to have experienced that singularity that you were.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And it kind of pulls into Elena's kindness, because Elena, I really, when I first met you here on this thing, I felt how kind you are and how I identified with that. And I think that is how I've been. No matter what has happened to me, no matter who's done something or what situations I've been in, I've never been hateful back. I pride myself on being kind.
Yeah.
So I guess that is somehow part of this journey that I'm on.
Yep.
There's a little story I think I'd like to tell on this spot.
Please do.
I had problems with our car. There were all things going on. And then I got the guidance from Yeshua to forgive everyone and anything that I think is my enemy. And once, I don't know how it worked or why it worked, but it happened. And then I got the message, now those problems will be over, and they never occurred again.
Yep.
So it was like, it was my car, it was the car, and it was like, how can a car have anything to do with grievances? But it does. And these are these miracles that we experience through forgiveness. And that was one that was very obvious, because the messages were there and the connection was put together, right? It was commented on so that I would understand what it was about. So, yeah, forgiveness, we don't always have to understand how it works or why it works. But if we allow ourselves to be guided through it and then say yes to forgiving, it actually has very powerful effects. We don't always know what they are, but in this case, I was told what it was, right? And it was in connection with what was going on with the car.
Beautiful. And
So
the
I
car
think,
outward manifestation of us, you know?
yeah, I think Yeshua wanted me to see actual effects that I could actually measure, right?
Beautiful. Yeah. And then you have it as evidence. And with that evidence, we build faith.
Yeah.
Can I comment also? I feel that my mission is kindness, but do you know, guys, how I am? I'm kind of like um, dealing with every day, because this is what I study miracle, and I kind of reading the miracle, and I just learning myself, that love myself, because that I don't know why I so hating myself, that and it's kind of every morning that wake up, and I just blaming myself, that why I told that people, why I need to be kind, why I told that, why I told that, and this is my way, that I'm just suffering from that. But it's because I was I have kind of that what my childhood was conflicting, and like Julia saying that, and so it's inside me. It's lots of kind of that and all my life I just blaming myself, and I don't know that. So I dealing with this all my life. Just won't mention that.
I think that your kindness is your guiding principle, Elena. I think that when you just always focus upon the guidance that kindness is, you know, there is no greater wisdom than kindness. When you let that be your fundamental guiding operating principle in life, you're always going to come back to love, and that's really all there is. Love or fear. And fear is false evidence appearing real. I love that acronym. So just let yourself be guided by your heart. Let yourself be guided by kindness and by love. And it will only ever steer you back to the beginning. You know, at the beginning of the Course in Miracles, Jesus said, this is a Course in Miracles. This is a mandatory course. The only thing that is elective is the time in which you choose to take it. And I think that when we make these detours are called, ooh, let me fear this thing. Let's see what it's going to be like to fear snakes, or let's see what it's going to be like to fear men, or let's see what it's going to be like to fear commitment, or let's see what it's going to be like to, forget my relationship with God. All that falls to the wayside when we listen to the journey and the promise that we've made to God within our hearts. And your promise for this lifetime was to demonstrate kindness.
Oh, thank you very much. That means that I am probably um, on the right way, that to study
Yes.
miracle.
Yes, you are on
Thank
the
you so
right.
much.
Yeah, of course.
I think also though I can relate to you, Elena, because it's, I'm very good at being kind to other people, but not so good at being kind to myself. And I think that's what you were saying. You're very self-critical.
Yeah, no, the whole point is that you must be sacredly selfish. You must be kind to yourself first. It's that put the air mask on, first. That's a demonstration of kindness, that you are able to be kind to yourself. The feminine way is to receive, to allow, and to let. And we're raised in a society where we're trying to be like men, providing. Motherhood is actually a very masculine trait because she's providing. But true femininity is in the receiving and the allowing, the letting. And those are things that we have to give to ourselves. Please be kind to yourself first. I am. I make sure that what I need, I have. Therefore, I have an abundance to give to other people. But if my needs aren't met and I'm angry and hungry and tired and whatever my drama is, you're not getting the best of me. I have to be well fed and well rested. I would like to think I'm like this all the time, but I'm not because I get triggered by crazy stuff. I had these birds that were dive bombing my cat, and I walked outside and I was mad at the birds. I'm like, "Are you attacking my cat?" And I screamed at the birds, and my girlfriend's like, "Why are you yelling at the birds? The birds are trying to protect their nest." I said, "The cat's just lying on the deck." She's like, "Forgive the birds. Forgive yourself." I'm like, "Fine. Don't attack my cat." You know? Look, we're human. We're here having this human experience, and I'm very protective of my cat. So there you go. You guys, thank you for just a delightful time being with you all. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the questions.
You're welcome. And I will add a little comment to what Elena was saying. And I would say, Elena, the first step that you've made is recognizing that you're being unkind to yourself. And that's a huge thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, because that's the first step to being able to decide to be kind to oneself, is to recognize that it's unkind. Okay, so
Right.
yeah. Are you saying, Lynn, that you need to go, or?
No, no. I just felt in my
Well,
heart to say thank you to all of you.
okay, wonderful. Yeah,
No, I've got
so
us for 11 more minutes.
perfect.
I have set
Yeah,
my to do at 4, but I have a client at 4. So it would be nice to have a few more minutes before that to just make a quick water break. But
okay. Then we'll go one more go at the kindness and gentleness, because in A Course in Miracles, one of the beautiful characteristics of a teacher of God is gentleness, and also of God, and how gentleness is such a powerhouse for happiness.
yeah, it makes me think of water and how a water just gently running down a stream can polish a rock, can change the course of the land. When it's just a gentle running, it doesn't have to be like a typhoon or a hurricane or a tsunami or a tidal wave. Just very gently, consistently, time and time again. And I think that's what the lessons of A Course in Miracles are. They're gentle. They don't come in, they're not abrasive. They're not like, you have to change everything you think, believe, and know about the world. It's just drip, drip, drip. Give 5 minutes every hour to stop and think and pause. 5 minutes to God every hour. Like, that's not a sacrifice, that's a blessing. And something gently like that can help to turn the course of our mind and our lifetimes and our decisions and our fears and our thoughts and our grievances around, and turn it all back to God where it belongs. Let our first thought in the morning be of God, and let our last thought at night be of God, and everything in between. When you look at the different versions of A Course in Miracles, from the FIP Blue version to when the copyright came off and they found Helen's notes, and then eventually the Circle of Atonement version came out, there's a conversation that Jesus first has with Helen. And he says, "This is A Course in Miracles. Please take notes." And he says, "You will see miracles through your hands, through me." And he said to her, "Your prayer every day should be, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? How would you have me be of service?" Rather than asking, "How do I get my needs met?" Jesus, what would you have me do? And then he said, "If you need something, ask me where you can go to get it. I'll give you the shortest route, quickest way to get it done, so that you can get that need met and get back here to writing the course with me." So that's why I confer with him and with Holy Spirit on everything that I do. Saves me a lot of time, a lot of heartache. Tells my ego to calm down, you know?
Yeah, that's another aspect of this connection from to the love within, is this calming effect it has on
Yeah.
your life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can end with this note because it's really beautiful. And I'll ask you, how can one reach you if one wants to reach you?
Sure. I'm on Facebook as Lynn LaBord Eastman. I have a website that is www.somalife, SOHMALIFE.com. I'm on Instagram as Rev Lynn LaBord. I'm a licensed reverend, and I also have a Soma Life Instagram account. There's also Soma Life page and group on Facebook, so I'm pretty easy to find. And I'm in a lot of the ACIM groups, and I have a mighty network platform that's called the Soma Life Sanctuary, and I have a YouTube account with hundreds of videos of me channeling Jesus and Magdalene and Mother Mary and Archangel Michael and Kuan Yin and Hathor. That's called the Soma Life Sanctuary. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Yeah, wonderful. And you're also on Telegram now. So,
Yes. I had been years ago when I came off. But yeah, I am indeed.
yeah. So,
Thank you all for a lovely, lovely afternoon. I really enjoyed this.
yeah, it was really wonderful.
Monica, thank you
And
so much for the invitation. I
you're
asked
welcome.
yesterday, I'm like, he's like, oh yeah, he's an old friend. Like, okay, great.
Yeah. So, for anyone listening, please help spread the word about the podcast so that more people can hear it. And perhaps also review it on the platforms so that people find it. Yeah. And thank you for being here and joining in this endeavor,
You're
because
welcome.
yeah, it's so important to Yeshua that this is
Yeah,
shared. And
it is.
he's been insisting on having so many voices speaking, many different people who are in connection with the message of love. And
Indeed.
it's so beautiful. So
Tina,
thank you so much.
you are so,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome. It was my pleasure. My love to all of you.
Thank you very much.
You're very
Yeah,
welcome.
It's amazing.
yeah, and
Amazing podcast. Thank you.
to all the listeners, you can participate on the live podcast recordings too. So just connect with me and I can set it up for you. Okay, then thank you for listening, and till next time.
Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful day. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanika. Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah,
It's
thank
amazing
you.
what you're doing. Thank you very much. It's just amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.